slide. I ain't letting that shit ride, nigga. Go ahead, try me if you want, nigga. I'll let the fucking clip fly. GXF to the death, nigga. And I never switch sides. Shit for life, that's my you know how to play it over here, nigga. We get it poppin' on this side. Lock, low, lock, low. You know what's up? Lock, low, lock, low. You can go and ask them other niggas, they tell you what's up. I already been through there and hit one of them niggas up. Mama start thinking I'm crazy, baby mama think I'm nuts. Ever since them niggas shot me, I just stopped giving a fuck. I'm losing my marble, letting the AR go. 50 shot sticks will do you niggas something horrible. 60 on the easy dash, look how fast my car goes. Talk about my Facebook, can't say shit about my buzz though. Had my shooter snort a few grams, kick his door for the end. While I'm smoking kush with a bitch I just imported from France. Rockin' paving 8 shit that I just bought at Japan. I get the trip and get the blick in this AR in my hand. Every bullet in the cartridges land. The stick was like a guitar in my hand, drumming like a part of a band. My dog was behind the wall with your man. I heard you got friendly and started in the can. You thought I was playing. Everywhere I go, I got it on me, nigga. And I ain't letting shit slide. That shit ride, nigga. Go ahead, try me if you want, nigga. I let the fucking clip fly. That's my word, nigga. Run up and see what's good. GXF to the death, nigga. And I never switch sides. That shit for life, homie. You know how to play it over here, nigga. We get it poppin' on this side. Lock, low, stay real, lock, stay real, low, lock, shit, low, my shooters lock, low, nigga, low.
Big Terrible, Texas, where legends are born. Lil Kiki the Don, original screwed up click. This dedicated to DJ Screw, Fat Pat, Big Mello, Big Steve, Born.
What's happening?
Well, it's Big Bud Peter, baby, Mr. Wood Grain. With alleys up against them, ballin' through your hood, man. And I'm smoking on some good, man. The color purple, not the movie, but the guy that have you going in the circle. Roll, looking more blasted in the Transcom Tower. My car flipping candy paint like it just came out the shower. Like this, I got the money, the power, and no finesse. So roll around one deep with 100,000 around my neck. I'm looking real shiny, you can see me from a mile away. Cause you were doing it till I came and took your smile away. Pull up on your side in the turning lane. Drop my truck, if you walk some deuce, then I'm Cadillac turning, man. Little swing to the left, big swing to the right. My plate scraping and I'm sliding the pipe. It's super tight. So don't try to knock us, baby. Don't try to hate us. How we do it in that Lone Star State. Get it strong. Never been to Texas, it's a picture to paint. Plus we doing it real big. Diamonds in the headrest, visors in the ceiling. Opponent 83s and foes and bow peeling. With bumpers and belts across the back of my trunk. Push a button and my coins wait the body you pump.
What's up, chat? How we doing? We're over here today. We're on this screen today. Welcome to Chill Thursday. We're gonna watch some Adam Neely videos and paint these bases. Put my guys on them. We're gonna paint some mud and some rocks, and there's a skull on this one. We'll see if I can't get the lens to give you guys a good zoom. Kind of helps a little bit. I don't want it to get in the way, though. Up and to the left. Your left or my left? It's not really made to be positioned like this. What's up, Lancer? That looks pretty good. Painting a base for this guy. Doing some gardening. Hell yeah. I did that earlier this morning. See if I can show you guys a picture of the tomatoes. Check them out, y'all. That looks like a fucking stock photo. Looking fantastic. The peppers are coming along too. I didn't really get a good picture of the peppers, but here's one of them. This is gonna be a red hot cherry pepper right here. Yeah. This little lens thing is actually clutch as fuck. That looked really good. Yeah, dude, put them in the outdoors channel. I post my gardening stuff in Discord. We love plants, dude. It's KEIFER green, dude. Plants are green, baby. the original green, but we also love my green salamanders. I'm really, actually, now that I'm looking at this up close, this looks really good. I'm super pleased with this. Like, I could still do some shading and stuff, but like, I'm almost afraid to because I feel like I did a great job with this one. I'm loving it. He looks badass. He's got his little fucking purity seal there. Looking sick, dude. We're gonna get you a cool base to stand on, buddy. You just stand back and stand by over here. Put you in camera view at least. Have you stand up next to the brushes. You ever do any canvas work? Nah. Not quite that kind of painter. At least not yet. I would be interested to do it now that I've gotten more comfortable with miniatures and stuff. Alright. So for this, we're going to need some muddy brown. We're going to need some wraith bone for the bone on the skull here. We're going to need some gray for the stones. A little bit of metallics for, we've got some barbed wire here and some spent shell casings. So I think we're going to start off with we'll just start off with the big one. Or maybe we start with the smaller stuff and then go down from there. I think that'll probably be easier. So we'll start with the metallics. And then we'll do our barbed wire and our little shell casings here. And then we'll move on to the skull. We'll do that, and then we'll move on to the rocks and stones, and then we'll do the mud all around it. That way everything kind of looks like it's... If I mess up, the mistakes will look okay, because it's all supposed to be kind of covered in mud anyways, so... At least in my mind, that's how I see the scene. I just put my mom onto your mix if she fucks with you. That's awesome. Hell yeah, and easy. I appreciate that. Your mom sounds cool as fuck. Let's see what we're painting today. We're going to do a lot of these, hopefully. Once I get a good process going, and once I get all the paint on the fucking palette, it shouldn't be too hard. We'll set them back here. If I don't knock them over when I reach my brushes. I also bought some new brushes from Hobby Lobby. This is a oval mop that I will use for dry brushing. I'm probably not going to use this today. That'll come in handy for some slap chop. And then I bought this this round 2.0 Hobby Lobby. It's kind of an all-purpose synthetic pretty little brush. Should go pretty well. Throw this in here with the rest of the guys. And let's start with my metallics. I think for the spent shell casings, we're going to do Balthazar Gold. Nice kind of bronze color. And then for the barbed wire, we'll probably hit the lead belcher. It's the closest I've got to a barbed wire, silvery kind of thing. We got the brown here for the mud, just Mornfang brown. And we're going to probably mix that with some of my really fucked up lid Abaddon black. Make it a little darker, muddy brown. And we're going to need wraith bone here for the bones. Got a nice kind of off-white. Not coming through great on the camera, but that's okay. It's white. What else do I need? Oh yeah, I need some Corax white, just some regular white. We can mix this with the black and make a sort of stone gray color. So a lot of muted browns and grays, kind of boring colors today, but I feel like I always do bright colors. This is all acrylic paint, I believe. But it's by Citadel Color. This is the Warhammer brand stuff here. And then for later ones, I'll use some technical paints. I got some Armageddon Dust. This is like a sand that you can basically paint on. It looks like realistic sand. And this is a varnish I'll use at the end. This is Technical Storm Shield. You can't see that shit at all. There we go. Technical paint, Storm Shield. This is a varnish, matte varnish. I'll probably wait to put that on until I put my my homemade Salamanders transfers here. Can't really see those. So I made these on the Cricut. Some of them fell off in the process. I put them back on, but they're all perfect. We've got Salamanders markings here, and then we've got squad markings here. So we've got battle line, fire support, veterans, etc. We can slap those on the shoulders of these guys and just put a varnish over them. Easy peasy. I don't have to do real transfers or... Shouldn't be a huge pain in the ass. But I'm going to get started. I'm going to start putting paint on the palette and putting it on the fucking base. For these metallics, I have a designated brush, if I remember where it is. Yes, my base coating brush from Army Painter. This guy right here. It's not the best brush in the world or anything, but it gets the job done. But it's only used for metallics, because if I mix any other paints in there, it's going to be a fucking disaster. You're going to have those little metallic flecks in your, what you want to be solid color paints. I've maintained it well with brush shampoo. It's holding a point decently well. I actually don't want it to be a point. I want it to fan out just a little bit, because I'm going to be doing some like side brush action here. So I want to be hitting this barbed wire like this. That ought to help get the spread I want with that action on the bristles there. Get my light zoomed in here. All right, let's get this paint on the motherfucker. I'm gonna use just a cheap little brush here to slap it on the motherfucking palette. Let me find one of my cheapo big fucked up brushes that I got here. Now, viewers sent me some brushes too, and I do appreciate that. If you're watching, thank you so very much. You are the best. Let's use this big fucked up Mamma Jamma. Gonna circle it around in the palm here so it gets a little bit of a point and I don't lose paint. Put this one off to the side. All right, let's boot up a video to watch, because I'm gonna be quiet here for a little bit while I work. I'll try to pause and react when I feel it's necessary, but I do want to say I'm not trying to steal this guy's content. I love this YouTuber. His name is Adam Neely. He does videos about music. He's a jazz musician and a bass player. I really encourage you, if you're going to watch this video on my channel, please go to his channel and subscribe and watch his content, because we are not here to take views away from him. Even if I am kind of quiet as we watch, just know I'm paying attention, just listening as I paint. And feel free still to chat, ask me questions and stuff. I have the screen right next to me. But I just want to put a disclaimer out there. Subscribe to this guy, support him. Do not take this as me trying to just like steal views from his channel.
Photography called The Rule of Odds basically suggests...
Start this from the beginning. DVY, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but thank you. What's up? Thank you for being here for the stream, buddy.
So there's this thing in photography called the rule of odds. Basically suggests that an odd number of objects within an image are somehow more pleasing than an even number of objects. Even numbers might feel unbalanced, or worse yet, mechanical.
There's actually some research that shows our preference for odd numbers in visual compositions as it applies to things like theatrical lighting and food plating. I thought about like how that might apply to music concepts. And one place where it might is the idea of tuplet grooves. Tuplet grooves are just 4/4 backbeat patterns that we all know and love, but instead of dividing the beat into 2/8 notes or 4/16 notes, you might divide it into 5 quintuplets. Or 7 septuplets.
I love these grooves because, you know, they feel unique and organic. Nerds love them, like myself.
I have an idea. I know where he's going with this. Just based on the title, it sounds like he is going to make the point that people always say that like music is in the wrong time signature often, where people say things are in 3/4 that are actually just 4/4, but with a tuplet feel to them, like a triplet feel to the rhythm that has a lot of triplets in it. But I also think it could be going, he's going to talk about how you can basically turn any 3/4 song into a 4/4 song if you just change the tempo. So be interested to hear if I'm right.
To count along to, but also normal, regular civilians don't mind them because it's just 4/4 backbeat stuff. It's easy to sing and dance along to. It's just kind of, you know, groove music. Groove music that doesn't feel too mechanical. Groove music that feels dynamic and balanced.
Subitizing is the process of rapidly identifying numbers of items. Now, we can reliably do this with about 4 randomly distributed items, but anything more than that becomes difficult to parse. That is, unless you organize large number of items into recognizable patterns. Recognizable patterns.
Fuck, I just put paint right on the sponge. Oh my god, I'm so stupid, chat. I just bought these sponges. Fuck. Holy shit. I'm so stupid. I need to put paper on the sponge before I put paint on it. Let me get as much of this off as I can before it sinks in. Oh my god. I was listening to the man talk. I got distracted. Oh fuck. Okay, well, that quadrant of the sponge is going to be cooked for now. Fuck. I don't want to pull out a whole new one. All right. We just don't have to use that area for now. It's fine. God, I'm so stupid. I literally did that the last time I painted. I was like, don't do that. Don't fucking put water on the, or don't put paint on the sponge. Put it on the paper first. Ooh, I got 2 papers there. Spread that bitch thin onto the sponge. Okay. There we go. Now we can paint. Sorry. Run it back just a little bit.
That becomes difficult to parse. That is, unless you organize large number of items into recognizable patterns. Recognizable patterns make even large odd numbers of items easy to identify at a glance without having to count them individually.
Hypertuplet grooves might be the equivalent of this phenomenon in music. These are tuplet grooves which divide the beat into subdivisions larger than 10, like 11, 13, 15, 17.
This is the 11-tuplet drum pattern from my band Sungazer's most recent tune called Against the Fall of Night.
Whoa. Okay, that's cool.
Patterns have a unique feel because of the discrepancy between the extremely fast subdivision and then the slow pulse. It's still in 4/4. You can hear that backbeat pattern, but just a wide 4/4. 4, 1, 2, 4. What's it? This is 11. Sean Crowder calls hypertuplets high-resolution rhythms. There are so many more notes per beat to manipulate, different kinds of accent patterns.
That's actually a funny way to put that, high resolution.
More rhythmic pixels, as it were. It's 4/4 in 4K. So much musical language and technology is built around the assumption of 4/4. It's the default setting on DAWs. It's the default time signature in music notation software. Most loops in Splice are in 4/4. Default drum patterns put a snare on 2 and 4. You know, Western harmony is built on the assumption that you set up tension on the weak beat and then you resolve it on the strong beat. Because of popular song of the past couple hundred years, we're deeply encultured to hear 4/4 as the default for all of the melodies and all of the songs that mean so much to us.
4/4
The point here
supremacy,
is that we're
baby.
in deep with 4/4, right? It's in the air. It's a big part of us. It is the microplastics of time signatures. So with that in mind, I've always thought it would be nice to explore new rhythmic territory, not by throwing out this language of 4/4, but by embracing it, using complicated rhythmic concepts that can be metaphorically subitized, large numbers intuited by recognizable patterns. This has been my big research project as a YouTuber and also the bass player for Sungazer. I wanted to share with you guys today some of the stuff that we have learned over the past 3 years of touring, writing, and recording music, because I haven't seen anybody else talk about it, and I think it's very, very interesting. How to use music psychology, math, and musical traditions to create a uniquely personal way of grooving in 4/4.
It's just
Listen.
4/4, man.
You can do a lot with
Like
it.
a nerd.
Yeah, exactly. Count it like a nerd. Pick a low resolution time signature and make it high res. Upscale the 4/4.
Part 1, hypertuplets. So there was a bit of controversy when we shared this music our most recent single, Sun Gazers Against the Fall of Night, on social media because, we made it into a little joke. Mom, can we have 4/4? No, we have 4/4 at home, 4/4 at home. And then it's us playing this extremely syncopated 11-tuplet groove. This, of course, I feel like a lot of people found intolerable.
It's in 4/4. Okay, then why is the sheet music in 11/16? Literally 5.5/8 notes per measure. You don't know what you wrote.
Oh my God.
The thing is, you're great musicians, and I can imagine you have some...
No way is this real.
You'd be this confidently wrong in such an easy thing. This is 11/8, not 4/4. No, it's in 4/4. It's in 11/8.
Well, actually...
Yes.
And granted, it didn't help that
the blue
sheet
spots
music
are where
that
the feet
was
go,
paired
yes.
alongside this clip seems to imply 11/16. You have 2 eighth notes, a dotted eighth note, and 2 eighth notes per measure, which add up to 11/16 notes. 5 shy of the 16 16th notes that you would
I don't know what happened to this one.
4/4. This
I believe
is
he's
a
got
problem in a quirk
black
of music notation
stuff all over him?
as
I don't-
it applies to hypertuplet grooves.
How do you
what happened.
notate the music
Yeah.
to read? Even if
Little
it's
black spots
compositionally in
on 'em.
4/4, it probably is going to look really ugly on the page.
So there's 2 ways of notating this stuff in Western notation. There's in 4/4, where you're writing out the tuplets, like if you want 11 notes per beat. So you round down to the closest regular subdivision of that beat, whether it's 8th notes or 16th notes or 32nd notes. In this case, rounding down from 11, you'd have 8 32nd notes per beat. And so in 4/4, to write an 11-tuplet groove, you'd write 32nd note 11 tuplets. This looks complicated enough, but it gets way more complicated.
What the fuck?
Syncopations or do anything over the bar line or over
Yeah,
the
I don't need to be doing all that.
within the 11 tuplets. It's a lot. So what we found over the past couple of years of working with many professionals is that it's easier to write out tuplet grooves in odd time signatures where the numerator is the rate of the tuplet, and then you're feeling the measures as individual pulses. It ends up being much more practical to write this stuff out in odd time signatures. But, and this seems like it's a subtle distinction, but I think it's an important one, it's not. It's not an odd time signature. It's in 4/4.
yeah.
That's how we're thinking about it. That's how we set
You're
the
still
track. That's how we count these
dividing
things off.
each pulse into 4/4, essentially.
This is the pulse. This is where the harmonic and melodic information is organized.
Yeah, we're certainly operating at the edge case of a lot of things, including the notation system. Things get squirrely. You have to use workarounds for a lot of this.
Anyway, we thought this idea of the slow pulsed fast subdivision was pretty cool. It's a good challenge for us to see if we could keep grounded at that slow tempo and feel that subdivision very relaxed and fluidly. So we wrote some tunes in this hyper-tuplet idea for our last album, which was called Perihelion. But it's one thing to have an idea. It's one thing to imagine something, and then it's one thing to put that into practice. And there were some weird quirks about the hypertuplet idea that we discovered through the process of touring this music. Hypertuplet music, paradoxically, is kind of boring. Or maybe not boring, but it feels very slow and sleepy.
Not exciting.
The distance between the kick and the snare drum is so wide. We found that putting hypertuplet grooves in our live set sometimes killed the momentum. It killed the vibe. Because although there are a million notes whizzing by in 4K44, the compositions were written with slow melodies in 4. That was the whole concept. How do you get audiences who are familiar with melodies in 4/4 to feel these odd subdivisions? How do you rely on patterns that audiences are familiar with and relate them to large, odd numbers?
So from this whole thing, we learned a very important lesson, and that is note rate doesn't matter. You can play a million notes per second. It can still feel very sleepy if the pulse isn't fast as well. The pulse is the key. Everything comes back to the pulse. Fast pulse,
I love that word.
exciting music.
So what happens when you just speed up the pulse? Hey, get with the program. Hey, we're dancing
Facebook
here. Hey.
replies, what do you expect? True.
Well, you can, but the brain is a cruel master, and there are some perceptual limits on how fast you can hear and play music. Speeding up the pulse increases the note rate, or the inter-onset interval of the subdivision. There's a lot of research going back more than a century suggesting that inter-onset intervals of about 100 milliseconds are the fastest meaningful subdivision of a pulse. Meaning you can certainly listen to music faster than this and play music faster than this, but our brains have a hard time hearing it as rhythmic information.
It's just kind of noise. Yeah.
buzzing at a certain point.
I know if you're familiar with my channel, I sound like a broken record at this point, but these concepts in music psychology are formative for how Sungazer makes music, and I think are unique to us, and I want to at least bring them up because I think they're really interesting and they're very important in understanding the musical decisions that we make. Anyway.
At a very slow tempo of 60 beats per minute, which is not really dance tempo, the inner onset interval of a 15 tuplet would be 66 milliseconds, far faster than the 100 millisecond threshold. And when you listen to this, there's some questions like, is this music supposed to be slow or is it supposed to be fast? When I listen to slow music, I want to really feel the tempo, feel the space in between the notes. When I listen to fast music, I really want to get my heart rate going. And this is kind of like the worst of both worlds in some ways.
That's actually true.
So because of the quirks of music cognition, this hypertuplet idea has some limited functionality.
So in order to do 11 tuplets, the least hyper of the hypertuplet family, we had to push the edges of this concept a little bit just to get music that was exciting enough for a live set.
Against the Fall of Night is in 4/4 at roughly 58
We painting
beats
now?
per minute,
Yeah, we
pretty
painting
slow,
now.
which means that 11 tuplets have an inner onset interval of 94 milliseconds.
That's just the
faster
primer.
than the 100
No,
millisecond
we're going to
threshold.
do the whole
We
bass.
found this to be a happy medium and also very exciting because
I use
11
colored primer
is
for
kind
my
of an unexplored
salamanders.
territory. How do you communicate meaning using 11 tuplets? How do you speak in this 11 tuplet language?
It's like every album we have different languages that we learn.
Yeah.
And I'm an avid language learner outside
Right now I'm
of
just
music
painting
as
bent
well. so
shell
maybe there's a
casings on the
parallel
ground.
there, but I do find it really fun and rewarding to
on each
pick
of
up the
them.
new vocabulary and see if you can smoothly get in and out of different phrases, and it's always fun.
Part 2, the language of ndek tuplets.
Dick. Dick. I love it.
So what is the language of 11? Well, the Gankino Horo and the Kopanica are examples of traditional Bulgarian dance in 11. Yes, I know. I just failed the Adamili Try Not to Mention Balkan Music challenge. Sue me. These dances are felt as two
Oh,
quick
man, I
steps,
just got
a
some
slow
bronze
step,
on this
followed
guy's
by
boot.
2 quick
Fuck.
steps. In Western notation, this would be 2 eighth notes, a dotted eighth, followed by 2 eighth notes, or groupings of 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2
That's a later
16th
problem.
notes.
I know what you're talking about, Psionic Gamer. No, I'm not doing the classic Goblin Green bass.
It's also based on this kind of 2 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2 grouping. I'm a fan of Balkan music, and our drummer Sean Crowder is a fan of drum corps, so it would make sense to use this kind of grouping as the basis for our 11 tuplet language.
Sure. Sounds pretty cool, I guess.
There are other ways of organizing groups of 11 pulses, like classically, the Allman Brothers whipping post is 3-3-3.
I like where he's going with this, though.
But I've always found myself more drawn to the 2-2-3-2-2 form of 11. I can't really describe why that might be.
It grooves nice, though.
It kind of feels more naturalistic.
Yeah.
Like it can, I don't know, I just kind of groove with it a little
Yep.
bit better.
That almost feels like an anticipation.
Yeah, it's got a build to it.
Exactly. Exactly. Like it's all in 3 and there's an anticipation. 1, 2, ga. 1.
Yeah, you're waiting for that
ga. But
that quarter note,
anticipation
that longer
actually
note
is
release.
the beginning of that next grouping.
Right.
So it's like a false anticipation. As a pop, rock, jazz musician, I'm familiar with the language of syncopation and how it might apply in 3/4, like the melody of Protocosmos by Alan Pasqua.
Not so much mathcore, just jazz, but yeah, it could apply to mathcore just as much. Absolutely.
There's all this like anticipation language, how I play the bass, how I accent certain notes within the subdivision that I can draw from when I'm trying to play in 11 tuplets. The old can become the new, and you can develop a related language that works in some similar ways.
It's not completely foreign, despite it being pretty foreign in a lot of ways.
Now, the clip from social media that proved very controversial,
It's an 11/8. Don't fight me on this.
It's from the bridge of Against the Fall of Night. It's where we take this basic 2-2-3-2-2 pattern.
Little Dance Gavin Dance. Yeah, I hear that. The bass
It's a
line.
fun
Yeah.
one because it's got this kind of hemiola of hitting every third 11 tuplet. And so you have to learn what that feels like in 11. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4
God,
and
that's
5 and
difficult.
6. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6.
Yeah. The feeling of threes grouped against that 11 feels like...
Yes, it's cool. It's a cool feeling.
Wow.
And then there's like those little sax and
That's
guitar
fucking amazing.
interjections there. And those make for very fun fills to double on the drums.
Now, one of the problems of exploring this language at this speed is that the pulse, like that 2-2-3-2-2, kind of starts getting lost along the way. You know, the Gankino Horo is a dance. The point of this music is to dance to it, and if you don't know how to dance to the music has failed. I've talked about this in other videos, but there are some psychological limits to tempo as well as note rate, and they usually have to do with how fast you can move your lower body, how fast you can dance to the music.
Justin London, for example, cites about 240 beats per minute as the fastest practical tempo. You can set your tempo on your DAW faster than that, and you can certainly play faster than that, but that doesn't mean that people will dance faster.
They're not
than
going to
that.
enjoy
To
that.
give you an idea, one of the two groupings at this tempo would be the equivalent of quarter note equals 320 BPM. Nobody's really dancing to that. However, and this is really what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. This is kind of the point of the video. There's this interesting emergent property that happens with the hypertuplet grooves and some of these like subdivision stuff, where there's like a phantom pulse that sneaks in there that we're not really feeling, but you kind of feel and hear anyway. It's hard to describe. Like, don't think about it too much. Just listen to this music. Where does your body want to move?
Up. I don't know.
For me, it's kind of obvious.
Oh, he means where in the beat.
To move in 3. How does that happen?
I see what he means, though.
Part 3.
Yeah.
Hypertuplet aksak. So in Balkan,
That
music,
is
there's this concept
exactly
called
where I was
aksak,
nodding my head,
which
too.
means limping in Turkish. It describes pulses which are uneven.
Limping.
In these
What an
hypertuplet
interesting
grooves,
word to put to
you can get
music
uneven
theory.
subpulses
Limping.
also. But the degree of unevenness is just a little bit less. So in Against the Fall of Night, instead of hearing
Lead Belcher,
2 2
let's get
3
this
2
barbed wire
2,
done.
your body tells you that it's 4 3 4. The difference between the 4 and the 3 is less than 100 milliseconds. Remember, the inner onset interval here is 94 milliseconds, which means that in your body, you can kind of just smooth out the differences between them, and then you can just vibe in 3 4. You can convince audiences that this music is in 3 4, even though the math doesn't add up at all.
That's so cool. People are literally clapping along.
The hypertuplet aksak pattern is the equivalent of roughly a quarter note equals 174 beats per minute, which is great. That's like drum and bass tempo. People were pumped and excited, and yeah, I mean, the thing that really solved their
Wow, Lancer, you said he just explained why I don't like most drum and bass, and then he cited drum and bass. You fucking called it, bro. Holy shit. I understand that. I like drum and bass a lot, but I understand why people don't. It's by any means not the most popular subgenre of EDM.
problems with hypertuplet grooves and creating music that was too sleepy for live environments.
We were thinking about how to make this really fun to play live. It was very important to us that we don't just write some crazy thing and then we don't enjoy playing it on stage.
We found a similar thing of accenting uneven subpulses with our hypertuplet tune Threshold. Threshold is in 19 tuplets at 33 beats per minute, even more extremes on either end. And the subpulses accent a pattern of 6 + 6 + 7. Audiences almost universally smooth out the differences between all of them and just kind of vibe at a moderate 3/4.
I admire how much he pays attention to the audience.
I don't have any evidence to suggest this, but I have a feeling
That song
that
jammed.
3
Holy fuck.
is like crabs and that it is the evolutionarily most optimal way to groove to hypertuplets. Like, everything will eventually default back to 3 if you're just going by intuition and just grouping Aksak subgroupings in hypertuplets. You will
Doing this barbed wire
just
here.
kind of default to 3. Everything evolves to 3/4. Everything evolves to crabs.
Another notable thing about this song, as opposed to some of the other tuplet songs we've done before, is that there are a lot of changing subdivisions within the same pulse.
One of the many fun things that you can do with this hypertuplet idea is you can shift to different tuplet subdivisions within the same pulse in 4/4. Like you could shift between septuplets and undectuplets, 7s and 11s. The musical effect of this is pretty cool. It's like you're speeding up and you're slowing down in this very organic rule of odds kind of way. The question is like, where musically is this best appropriate? And so we found that a breakdown was probably a good place to slow down the subdivision.
Wow. Oh.
Notating this effect of shifting to another subdivision is sometimes kind of funny. If you're writing everything out in 4/4,
The rocks,
you just write out tuplet.
Just wondering how you're going to paint all the rocks without hitting the shells, and the wire might be tricky. So the rocks, I'm going to have to be a little more careful, but most of the base is this muddy brown that I'm going to do, and I'm okay with like a little bit of that quote-unquote mud, getting onto the shells and the barbed wire. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We'll just try our best.
However, if you've been writing this stuff out in an odd time signature, like 11/16, if you want to shift to a septuplet subdivision and play 7 notes where there used to be 11, you really don't have any choice. Like, your hands are completely tied. You have to write out a 7/11 polyrhythm.
Damn. That's insane. That sounds so cool, though.
Part 4, 7/11 polyrhythms.
I'm John Cush, and this is the 7-Eleven Challenge.
John
In her February
Kush.
2022
Blaze
article,
it,
Music Theory
chat.
and Social Media, published in the Oxford Handbook of Public Music Theory, Dr. Miriam Pielanen dedicates a page to the phenomenon of 7/11 polyrhythms. She traces the meme, starting with my February 2019 video, where I explained how you might tap 7 evenly spaced notes in the same amount of time as 11 evenly spaced notes, a 7/11 polyrhythm. At the end of this video, I issued the 7/11 challenge, challenging people to post themselves playing or clapping along to a 7/11 polyrhythm outside a 7-Eleven, or if that wasn't possible, any kind of convenience store or gas station, mini mart, what have you. There were so many submissions. It was great fun. People played instruments, they clapped alone or with others. You even saw musical submissions too, like full songs. Soon after, Alex Becerra posted a video of him doing the challenge for 7 minutes and 11 seconds on July 7th outside of a 7-Eleven in Mexico City. This went like mega viral outside of the sphere of social media and music theory. As Dr. Miriam Pielanen writes, 7/11 polyrhythms were not merely familiar and enjoyable, but also intellectually affirming and musically enriching. By transforming a well-known number, 7/11, into a participatory musical challenge, 7/11 polyrhythms enlisted people's bodies and minds, feelings and memories, ambitions and fears into learning a difficult musical skill.
Hey, this one was kind of a pain in the
I love
ass.
that.
It's
It's
got
really
this
nice,
little
actually. It's,
radar
makes it feel
handheld
much
radio
bigger,
thing.
than maybe I had intended when I issued that challenge. So very, very cool. However, she also writes that these are performances of polyrhythms that are not directly connected to
No,
any
that's
genre
true
or
what you
style.
said, Lancer. I mean, once you get to that super high BPM, he made the exact point that like your lower body can only move so fast, and for a lot of people, they either don't want to or they can't move their lower body that fast. So it's just not something that's naturally engaging to them when they hear like drum and bass or whatever, or anything up tempo like that that's really fast, like above 170, for example.
It is polyrhythmic performance for its own sake.
On the one hand, you could look at this as some dumb, nerdy social media meme because it's not being used to make serious music and it's just content for the algorithm. But I really do think that, for the most part, 7-Eleven polyrhythms represent a real moment of community and joy. And that's very, very cool.
There's this tweet from 2019 that the New York Times writer Nitsu Abebe wrote that I feel like is kind of prescient in some ways. I don't know if it's prescient, but it's interesting maybe. He writes, Black MIDI reminds me. I feel like 2020's music is going to be real heavy on high-skilled young musicians who grew up steeped in the tropes and in-jokes of example music theory YouTube.
I gotta be honest.
Yeah.
I was pretty ambivalent about including a 7-Eleven polyrhythm in a piece of what I consider to be serious art, or something that I put so much of myself into, and that is Sun Gazers Against the Fall of Night. Like, I'm not including the lick everywhere in all of Sun Gazer's music because I think it might cheapen it. And I've gotten a lot more self-conscious over the years about being the meme social media theory guy because I want to treat myself the same way that I treat, all of the great musicians that I look up to. I deeply respect them and what they have done, and I want to respect myself and my art in the same way. But, this moment was pretty big. It was documented in a serious academic journal. Like, one of the best jazz drummers alive, Ari Honig, took part in it. But I don't know, man. It's like a fun part of the culture. It's a fun thing. And by doing a 7-Eleven polyrhythm, it feels like we're quoting the culture, like jazz musicians quoting a piece of music
nice.
And one of their solos. It's
I
a
can
tribute,
appreciate that.
to a community and idea that has
It
brought
really is like a
much
meme
joy.
in the traditional sense.
So, we have a
Cultural
7-Eleven
meme.
polyrhythm in our music. And speaking of joy, immediately after the 7-Eleven polyrhythm and Against the Fall of Night, Jared Yee takes a massive saxophone solo. And that's a joyful noise right there. Good stuff.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Damn. Oh, he's splitting a lip up there.
So the footage
Damn.
of Jared Yee shredding over Against the Fall of Night comes from a very special gig that we played in Belgrade, Serbia. And it wasn't just special because it was the first time that we played in Serbia, and we found an amazing musical community there that liked to nerd out about this kind of music, but it was also special because it was a gig that we played after Lufthansa lost literally all of our baggage on the way to Serbia, including my bass guitar. I put together a little vlog about the experience of how we managed to pull it together and how the band has learned over the years to keep calm under pressure. Anyway, if you want to check out this little vlog I put together, it's up on Nebula. Nebula is my streaming service. It is a creator-owned streaming service.
How are you going to keep it together, bro? You don't even have your instrument. That's crazy. I'd be freaking out.
And enriching content. It's ground zero for the internet's best and brightest video essayists, for example. Jacob Geller, FD Signifier, Maggie Mayfish, and of course the OG of YouTube video essays, Lindsay Ellis. I also have a sizable catalog of
Jacob Geller's videos
content up there, like some more Sungazer vlogs, some composition videos, like one that I did with Charlie Rosen of the 8-Bit Big Band. We did a deep dive on one of his arrangements, and there are many others up there.
Did a show with them.
I'm not the only music creator up on Nebula. You also have folks like Amy Nolte, 12
They were at
Tone,
Magfest, I believe.
Polyphonic. They all have exclusive content that can only be found up on Nebula. Nebula! Nebula! Getting delirious a little here with this ad read. Anyway, but beyond all of this good stuff, Nebula is moving more from the self-produced content to more high-budget originals, prestige content in the indie streaming world. Better stories, better production value, taking independent creators to the next level. You have game shows, like new episodes of the viral game show Jetlag, Tag You're It, from the people over at Wendover Productions. I say this every time for these Nebula ad reads. I love watching Jetlag because it honestly feels like on a very visceral level like touring in Europe. Trains, planes, sprinting, the whole 9 yards. Yep, that looks like tour to me. Anyway, if any of this stuff looks good and you want to support the creators over on Nebula, you can go to nebula.tv/Adam Neely or click the link in the description to get 40% off annual plans. I genuinely love the community of creators over on
some
Nebula.
barbed wire done
Such
here.
a wealth of knowledge and inspiration.
Open
for me,
flex
and
NFL,
chances are,
throw
if
on
you like
15
this stuff on my
sound
channel,
guys.
you like
Yeah.
the stuff over
Who
on
needs the
Nebula,
bass
it's
guitar?
the same vibe. It's good times. So go right now to nebula.tv/Adam Neely to get 40% off annual plans. I'm very excited to be part of this community that engages the world in a more meaningful way.
bring back the
and I think
brass
you'll enjoy
because-
the stuff that you'll find over on
Right.
Nebula. Until next time, everybody.
The bronze color here because
I've been teaching this ridiculous polyrhythmic two-step dance to Sungazer's audiences over the past 2 years or so.
We're going to teach you guys a dance that we like to call the Sungazer two-step. It's very easy. All you got to do is step to your right 2 times and then step to your left 2 times.
First, it starts off with what appears to be a two-step in 4/4, like move to the left, now move to the right. In this case, the audience appears to be moving on beats 1 and 3. So like this, 1, 2, 3, 4. But then there's some rhythmic weirdness that happens, and then all
Where's
of
the
a
one
sudden
that
the
I
audience
missed?
now appears to be moving on beats 1 and
I saw it
4
earlier.
and 7/4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. To fully explain what's going on in this tune, which is called Cool 7 by my band Sungazer off of our upcoming album Against the Fall of Night, we're gonna have to talk about this relatively new concept, or at least new concept to me, called pulse morphing. I've also heard it called warping the beat or melting the beat. Yogav Gabai, who runs an excellent YouTube channel, calls it shifting gravity centers. Yogav, by the way, is going to be opening up for Sungazer at our show in Boston in January. More about the Sungazer tour later in this video if you want to go check us out. Anyway, the basic idea behind this is you're going to create grooves out of uneven pulses. So you have long pulses and short pulses. You're going to combine them together in whatever pattern you want to create a groove. Now this groove is what we're going to call the clave pattern, the key pattern, borrowing a term from Latin American music. The clave pattern for Cool 7 is 4 long pulses and 1 short pulse. In this case, there's a 3-to-2 relationship between them, dotted quarter notes that take 3/8 and quarter notes that take 2/8.
I think the question that we started asking is like, well, what if we put other numbers of notes in the same pulse?
And by we, I mean you.
Yeah, that was definitely me.
Instead of 3/8 notes, you could divide those dotted quarter notes into 2 dotted eighth notes. And honestly, as long as you keep that long short thing going, you can get pretty wacky with it. Instead of dividing them into 2 dotted eighth notes, Sean had the idea to divide it into groupings of 5. You divide those dotted quarter long pulses into 5 quintuplets, or I guess 5 to 3 quintuplets. There's no real good term for them.
So it's 5 eighth notes in the space of 3 eighth notes.
Yeah. And then that final short pulse into 3 triplets. This is pretty cool because, again, as long as that simple pattern keeps repeating over and over.
Break is over. It's been Shell. Post some plans in Discord later. Hell yeah. Yes, salamanders. Here's my... Be careful. Don't get any aim for my
The pattern
fingers
just
on
keeps repeating, and as we all know,
heavy
repetition
intercessor we're
is fun to dance
doing
to.
right now. We've got a bunch of others up in my little cabinet above me that I'll pull
You
out.
might notice that this kind of feels like 4/4, although like there's a weird runt
Get a
note
little
at the
more
very
lead
end.
belcher
And
going.
that's because Sean
Touch
is
up
placing
these
the backbeat on the 2nd and the 4th of the long pulses.
barbed wires.
This shifts your perspective to start feeling the long pulses as the beat. Dotted quarter notes start sounding like quarter notes. Kind of like those TikToks which always go viral where drummers play Everybody Wants to Rule the World, a song in 12/8, but phrased with the backbeat in 4/4. Displacing the backbeat to make you feel a different internal pulse. So that's what we do. We get the audience to feel the pulse a certain way. We get them moving on the 1st and the 3rd of the long pulses. And then as they're doing that, we shift the music underneath them so that the longs start feeling more like dotted quarter notes instead of quarter notes, also shifting the subdivision as we make that transition. So honestly, they're two separate things happening. There's the pulse morph and then also the metric modulation.
Wow, that's so good. I could feel the morph, the shift.
Think of it like a Necker cube. You're looking at the perspective in one pulse, and then you're looking at another perspective in another pulse. I guess it's like a
Got a
Necker
bunch of models I've never
groove.
painted. I have close to like 2,000 points.
This has helped out, and also honestly, just
all I've got unpainted right now, I've got
the melody.
7.
The melody works well in
Furnace
both time
Marines
fields,
that are
the
completely unpainted.
4/4-ish groove and then the 7/4 groove. And
I
so
gotta
because of that, the
finish basing
shift
these guys
happens
first.
halfway through the melody. So you're hearing the melody as the shift is happening.
This skull painted.
So of course, Sungazer is not the first to do this kind of thing, not by a long shot. The person to whom a lot of people attribute this stuff is the Armenian pianist Tigran Hamasyan, who does some pretty wild stuff with the morphs. Although I know that the composer Malcolm Braff has been working with morphs for quite some time now, and the general idea of uneven pulses being divided differently actually might have its origins in Aksak rhythm in the Balkans and classical Turkish music. The point is that none of these ideas are particularly unique to us. We have gleefully stolen from many sources. And of course, we've stolen some of this stuff from Yogov Gabai himself. Yogov has a great video analyzing the work of guitarist Joshua de la Victoria and drummer Matt Garska on the Victoria tunes Iris and Kepler. These tunes take pulse morphing to some pretty mind-bending heights. Sungazer was very inspired by both this video and also Joshua de la Victoria's playing. So of course we asked Josh to play with us, and he ended up recording on the record. You can hear some aspects of the pulse morphing in his playing, in fact. There's this one lick that he plays where he divides a dotted quarter note into 4, which you might represent as his dotted 16th notes. It's a super cool sound, compositionally, I think. The feeling of speeding up and slowing down within the same tempo. However, the eagle-eared and eagle-mouthed among you might have noticed a couple of things which are a little bit off about this.
Yeah, it's a 23/8 groove, I guess, or...
Well, okay, so
But
here's
it's actually
here's the thing.
What do you think it is, Adam?
So the first thing here is that 5 against 3 is not the same thing as 3 against 2. So the subdivisions of the pulses are not going to be of the same length. You can see it here represented in Ableton Live. I have the clave pattern here, 4 longs and 1
Should have
short.
painted the skull
and then
black
the subdivisions
first
of
and then
5
done over
on the
it with
long
white.
pulse.
Fuck.
If I copy 3 of these subdivisions over, you notice they don't fully cover
shade
that
after.
last beat. They almost do, but not quite. You come up a little bit short. So you have 2 options here. The first is to keep a nice even subdivision throughout the whole groove, and then just like kind of more or less match the lengths of the longs and shorts. It won't be absolutely the same length between the 2 fields, but it'll be like more or less. You'll get the general impression of long and short. This seems to be best when you're just feeling it organically without a click track. This seems to be what Tigran Hamasyan does.
Does actually feel the best, and that's probably closer to how we just played it. But when you're playing with a
gotta let
laptop
this
and you
dry
have
for a
other
second.
layers on top of it, then it starts
Painting
to
this little
feel
skull
really,
on the
really
ground, it kinda looks
wonky,
like shit
like
right
in
now.
not a good way.
The second option, the one that we ended up going with, is stretch out the subdivisions so that the absolute lengths of the longs and the shorts are the same. It's just that the subdivision on that short pulse is a little bit off. It's like a little, it's not exactly the same as the subdivisions of the previous 5, you know?
Okay? So Josh, Jared, and I are going to start, and you guys follow, all right? Very easy. Don't think about it too much.
Yeah, I think it's very fun that, our only instructions to the audience are step left and step right. Once you set that much mass in motion, like literally the mass of people going back and forth, it's hard to stop. This moment's always crazy to me when I see people doing this live, when I'm helping people do this live, because you really do feel the shift, the momentum shift from feeling like you're playing on beats 1 and 3 to playing on beats 1 and 4. It's crazy. If it fits into the groove of the music,
Honestly,
that
the green
repetitive
undercoat kinda
motion
helps
is
it.
irresistible.
Great job, y'all.
Repetition legitimizes.
Cherokee on the tenor saxophone.
I guess another shell on the ground.
Musicians love talking about feeling pulses and time signatures and all these crazy ways. And it's such a fun experience to be in the room with a bunch of people who are equally as nerdy as I am. It's so wonderful to be able to do that. And, if you want to come and hang out and dance this silly Sungazer two-step with us, I have great news because we're going on tour. And it's a big one. We just announced a bunch of new dates. We're gonna be playing 56 total shows over the next couple of months. We're first coming to Europe with our amazing saxophone player, Jared Yee, but also our guest keyboard player, Button Masher. We're gonna be playing Oslo, Gothenburg, Stockholm, Tallinn, Riga, Vilnius, Madrid, Barcelona, 2 shows in Prague, Copenhagen,
that's awesome.
Berlin, Paris,
I want a tour like that.
Pisa, and
By the way, if you got any
After
washes
that, we're
used for
heading to
drying up the
Salt Lake
armor,
City,
trying to
Boise,
yup.
Portland,
I
Vancouver,
got
Seattle,
Agrax
Sacramento,
Earthshade
where we'll have a
here.
beautiful Serum tip
I've
open for
got
us. After that, we head down to
Colon
San
oil.
Francisco, Los
Probably
Angeles,
use the
San
Earthshade
Diego,
for most of
Phoenix,
these
Santa
bases,
Fe,
though.
and Denver, where Evan Marion and Dana Hawkins will be our support. I'm very excited for this. Evan and Dana were the band that inspired Sungazer to make music in the first place, so it's honestly going to be an honor to have them with us for those shows. After that, they'll support us in Philadelphia, followed by a show in Boston with Schwezmo and Yoga of Goodbye, if you want to come check out some Pulse Morphs. That will be the Pulse Morph show for sure. Then hit up Burlington, followed by shows in Montreal,
we're gonna
Quebec
do the
City,
rocks
and
now.
Toronto.
Start
The Canadian
mixing some
shows will
gray.
have Portraits open for us, which is one of Joshua de Victoria's projects, who, by the way, will be our
Korax
guest
White,
guitarist for
got
the
a
East
bad
Coast
black.
portion of this tour, starting in
Mix them
Philadelphia.
together
Continuing from
here.
there with shows in Cleveland, Columbus, Chicago, Indianapolis, St. Louis, Memphis,
Indianapolis,
Nashville,
baby.
Atlanta, Durham, Washington, D.C., and Pittsburgh. These shows will all have support from producer Salami Rose Joe Lewis. We're very excited to play these shows with her. And finally, to cap off the East Coast portion of the run, we got a big show in New York City with Shub Saran as support. Very excited for that one. It will be a Shubgazer reunion. Lots of shredding. Following that, we'll actually return to Europe, and Jared and Josh will be our band for the next European stage, starting in London, followed by Manchester, Birkenhead, and Bristol, followed by gigs in Luxembourg, Utrecht, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, and finally Helsinki. You can check out sungasermusic.com/tour if you'd like to get tickets.
Little cheat code I know for shading golds and silvers is use flesh tone shades on gold colors, on oil or rattling ground under silvers. Interesting. Interesting.
I love practicing with a metronome, but are there other ways to practice time by yourself? So English is what's called a stress-timed language, which means that the amount of time between each stressed syllable is relatively consistent depending on your accent and whether or not you're a native speaker. So check this out. Cats chase rats. The cats will chase the rats. The cats will be chasing the rats.
Too dark. I need more
In all three of
light.
these examples, in my native Maryland accent, there is relatively the same amount of time
It's just
between
a
the stressed
really dark
syllables,
gray
and then I
right
just
now.
kind of crammed in the unstressed syllables where I could. English, baby, English. An interesting byproduct of this is that for native speakers anyway, it's relatively easy to talk along with a metronome and match the natural rhythm of your speaking voice to the sound of the metronome. Yeah, the cadence that you adopt is fairly sing-songy. You kind of have to think as if it's this ridiculous little song kind of thing. But that's the point. The point here is that there is a lot of rhythmic information in the language that you speak that you can leverage for improving your musical rhythm. My Sungazer bandmate Sean Crowder is an absolute wizard on the drum set. He can do some things that no human being should really be able to do when it comes to polyrhythms and limb independence and that kind of thing. And one of the things that I've learned from him over the years is that counting out loud and leveraging the natural rhythm of the human speaking voice is a great way of improving your internal clock.
Counting out loud with my voice over everything that I play.
1 and 2 and 3.
Which is of course easier said than done. And this is because counting to 4, if you're going to count to 4 and play along to a 4/4 groove, requires the language processing side of your brain to be active. And so you cannot automate what it is that you are doing as you play, the same way that you can kind of just automatically tap your foot and not have to think about it, because that's a different side of the brain. That's the motor cortex. And so like playing a syncopated bass line in 4/4, like if I was to play Jocko's the Chicken, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like one of the hardest things that I've ever learned how to do with my instrument. And that's because there are times where I am playing without counting and times where I am counting without playing. The way that we learn how to do this is we meticulously go through every subdivision and figure out what we say and play along with our speaking voice. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Now paradoxically, we can practice this out of time and that will still improve our time. As long as you're thinking like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and
you're still comprehending how it's all supposed to sound.
As long as you are matching the movements of your fingers to the syllable that your mouth says, you can rely on the rhythmic information that you know will be coming from your voice because of the English language later. Anyway, once you're done feeling the 16th notes, that bass level subdivision, you can go up one rung in the rhythmic hierarchy to counting eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. This is difficult now because you're saying things and you're not playing them, and sometimes you're playing things and not saying them. But you're still responsible for all of the subdivisions and you're still responsible for the time. Finally, you can go up to just counting the numbers and then focus really just on making counting to 4 sound as natural as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now, the sequence that I just showed you took many years for me to be able to do, even remotely relaxed and confidently, and I'm still working on this kind of stuff. But the point here is that I've developed a stronger rhythmic feel without even thinking about a metronome. It's purely based on the coordination between my speaking voice and the language processing side of my brain and the physical act of playing the bass guitar.
I'm gonna have to do another coat on it.
On jazz education outside the U.S. I've heard that
on the white,
real jazz is in New York. So my thought on this is that you don't need to live in Vienna to play classical music. You don't need to live in Rio de Janeiro to play bossa nova. You don't need to live in La Boca in Buenos Aires to play tango music. But it certainly would help to understand aspects of the music, like technical aspects of the music and also social aspects of the music, to at least go to those places. Like for me, for example, I went to Leipzig in Germany a couple of years back to check out some Bach. I went with Mary Spender. We went to the Bach Museum. We went to the Thomaskirche, where Bach worked for the last 30 years of his life. And I checked out a lot of Bach while I was there. And I love Bach's music. But for me, it was always like, this very austere thing. We studied Bach in school. You appreciate all of the inner mechanisms and the workings of the counterpoint and all of that good stuff. But when you actually go to where Bach lived and worked and where there is a living tradition of his music, you realize that it is very different. Like the community gets together and sings his music, his chorales.
Wow.
There is much more of this communal vibe. It is for the people. It is not this austere, cerebral thing. It's very much a community religious experience. Like where you go to listen to Bach is in a church. And it's really something, honestly, to be there in that church and hear this music that I have a personal relationship to, but I finally get because I hear the acoustics of the actual church that Bach worked in, and you understand why he arpeggiated the chords a certain way. Like the architecture of the buildings in which he worked and the community for which he wrote his music
everything comes together in a way that I think is absolutely essential if you are going to play his music, to at least come and reckon with. So all that to say, I think if you're going to play jazz music, especially if you're going to play jazz music for a living, especially if you're going to teach
go to New York
jazz
City.
music, you should at least go to New York and check out jazz there, because there has been an unbroken living tradition since the beginning of jazz in New York, from all of the great jazz masters, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, etc. They lived and worked in New York City. The culture there and the spaces that they played in influenced the music that they made and continue to influence the music that's being made today. So if you play jazz, go to New York, spend a week there, just check out the jazz clubs.
I'd throw
check out the
Chicago
Village
in there
Vanguard.
too.
When you go to the Village Vanguard, be sure to
Chicago
check
has
out
a
the
rich
Vanguard
jazz
Orchestra,
history, doesn't
because
it?
you understand what big band music is on a much deeper level if you check it out in that kind of environment. The same way that I checked out Bach being played in the Thomas Kirche. I firmly believe
He did all that
I
before
understand jazz music
Soundgarden.
more now, and I think you will understand jazz more if you go to New York and check.
You got the
some
natural
stuff out.
Soundgarden in the church, dude.
How do you say it?
Baroque.
Baroque. Oh, for goodness sake.
It's the American
That's not the way you say it, though.
That's the American.
It's baroque.
It's the American way of saying it. You say Baroque.
Well, you didn't even exist back then.
True. She
Well,
has
that's
me
sassy.
there.
I want to know about the history of the double
Didn't even
bass drum.
exist back then.
I'm by no means an expert on the double bass drum, but like many good things, it has its roots in jazz. Louis Bellson was the drummer for the Duke Ellington Orchestra, and he famously pioneered the use of two bass drums on a drum kit. He mainly used it for soloistic purposes. He was very much a show drummer in the style of like Gene Krupa and Buddy Rich. Check out this solo that he's playing over the Hawk. The Hawk Talks.
All he could do was sigh. Prelude number 1 in C major, KEIFER King Mixing. Oh yeah.
Was much more muffled.
Nope,
and
it's in major
resonant,
key, can't do
which
it.
made it more difficult to play time with the rest of the band. Like as a bass player, I cannot imagine playing along to the sound of jazz bass drum double kick. It just sounds like the entire low end would be taken up in this way. That's just not fun. Another early drummer that really made their mark with a double kick was, of course, Billy Cobham of the Mahavishnu Orchestra. But it wasn't until heavy metal came around with that like high-end click that it started to make sense when you're playing the double kick in the sound of an ensemble. What's your take on the Finale shutdown? This news is a bit old, but it was like very industry rocking. Finale, which is one of the music notation softwares that is integral to Broadway and also like film scoring in Hollywood. All of the professionals in those worlds use Finale. The parent company Make Music announced that Finale would not be supported anymore. And what's more is that in short time, you wouldn't be able to even install Finale on computers. It's as if Adobe just said, by the way, Photoshop,
gone.
Not anymore. No Photoshop anymore, guys. We're not doing Photoshop. In fact, in a year's time, you can't install Photoshop anymore. Photoshop is done. So the entire industry freaked out. Everybody was like, how do we do this? Make Music apparently
That's
is
when you get on the high seas.
but it's looking like most people are either going to go to Dorico, which is kind of positioned itself as Finale's successor, or potentially MuseScore. There's also Sibelius, which is what I use.
Sibelius is the old school fucking
wouldn't
piece
wish
of
Sibelius
shit.
on
Yeah,
anybody
that
at
thing
this
is a
point.
fucking nightmare.
It is a graveyard where dreams go to die. I just can't bring myself to unlearn Sibelius because it is kind of like such a terrible program, but you can do certain things
Dude, I know
much
exactly
faster
how
than any other program. And so it's so
know how that
hard to
goes.
turn off that
I
side
use
of
a
the
lot of
brain,
old
which is like, I
software.
can just work faster in Sibelius than what I'm trying to do in MuseScore right now. I have never been able to get to the point where I can work as fast in MuseScore as I can in Sibelius, and it's really annoying. But yeah, anyway, what was your experience at Radar like? So Sungazer played at Radar Festival in Manchester, which is this prog metal festival. And it was an amazing experience. It was our first time playing a metal festival, so I felt a bit self-conscious.
Yeah, they're a little out of their element.
In our ridiculous pink and orange pajamas, especially when you had some really intense bands playing right next door. But the reception that we got from people was very, very positive, and it seemed like a lot of people liked
metalheads
it.
love technical
Because,
music
you know,
like that.
fusion,
Absolutely.
prog, or very similar. There's a similar aesthetic, similar audiences. I think that honestly is what I want to do, and what I see people in our niche doing more and more is try trying to straddle that line between jazz festivals and metal festivals because the audiences are receptive in both.
Yep.
And I think there can be
I'm
more
a crossover fan.
those two communities together.
I like them
think we're gonna
both.
do a lot more of that kind of thing in the future. So
I would love to see stuff like
how
that
do you
regularly.
get your bass to sound like that on Against the Fall of Night? So Sungazer has a new album out called Against the Fall of Night, and on the title track, I use 3 separate octave pedals. We have the Tim LaFave signature 3-leaf audio octave pedal. This guy is the one that I use generally when touring live. It has this really warm synth texture that tracks very, very nicely. The Basso C2 has a very similar sound, and it actually works very well with passive instruments like my P-bass for getting a very tight staccato punchy tone. And then this is my big secret, the bass synth wah setting 7. Nobody talks about setting 7 on the bass synth wah. This setting, especially if you turn the sense and the range all the way down, it's incredible. Like check this out, it tracks ridiculously fast.
Wow.
And also ridiculously low.
So smooth.
Such an interesting, grimy sound. This thing, I think I bought for $50 like, 12 years ago. The downside of it is that you have almost no control over the volume. It is significantly hotter than Unity. But I freaking love it. Why high C instead of low B? I started stringing my Kiesel with a high C string instead of the low B. This is up a fourth. You can play more melodically, you have more chordal vocabulary, like certain chords.
This one's coming along real nice.
This kind of tuning.
Those stones look really good.
And it still sounds like a bass guitar, right?
So fun to see this progress happening in real time right now. I've been looking at these daily, just like, I gotta finish this.
Between the two, where I can express certain vocabulary that I wouldn't be able to express
this gray that I mixed
on a
is
regular
fucking
5-string.
Perfect. It's such a nice stone gray. It's gonna look really good with a wash on top of it to darken it a little bit.
It's nice. I love it. How'd you like Serbia? Smiley face. Yeah, Serbia was amazing. We played a pretty intense gig in Belgrade where Lufthansa ended up like losing literally all of our luggage. But we pulled through. We ended up playing an amazing gig. The audience was like really pumped about everything. And yeah, I had such a great time in Belgrade. One of my favorite things about Belgrade was that every restaurant we went, at least in the downtown area that we were staying in, there were different bands playing like everywhere we went, which is
like Nashville.
Just such a fun vibe to have music in the air. I loved Belgrade. I really want to come back. Are you going on tour anytime soon? Why, yes, Brian, we are. Sungazer is going on tour this fall. We're playing not only all over Europe, but we're playing all over the United States and Canada. You can check us out when we come through. Now, one place that we're excited to finally play is the Crocodile Cafe in Seattle. We were going to play there last year on our tour opening up for Plenty alongside Jakub Szczytecki, but that gig unfortunately had to be rescheduled at the last minute. So we're excited to finally get to play there, make our triumphant return to Seattle, and play the Crocodile Cafe, which is, fun fact, the venue where the 1990s Seattle alt-rock band Harvey Danger famous for their hit Flagpole Sit-Up.
Flagpole Sit-Up, baby. Banger.
It was, quote,
nice.
the first place we felt like we were a real band. So who knows, maybe Sungazer, my instrumental jazz fusion band, will get our big break at the Crocodile Cafe. Now, the lead singer of Harvey Danger and also music journalist Sean Nelson has started a podcast called The Wonder of It All, about moments of conspicuous breakthroughs or big breaks. You know, it's easy to see breakthroughs of artistic success and commercial success as a positive, but, you know, artists rarely speak of it solely in that light. And I've always found that very interesting. Like, why doesn't the material success of, you know, hitting it big come with happiness or like a life worth lived? Why is there this weird divorce between the two of them? Now, if you're interested in this kind of discussion about breakthroughs,
go to Nebula.
The Wonder of It All on my streaming service, Nebula. Nebula is the creator.
I knew it.
Service. It's a great place.
I saw the
for
plug coming from a mile away.
And enriching content. It's all stuff up there that may or may not work well for recommendation algorithms, but instead is specifically curated for people who want to go deep in learning more about the world and connecting with others. I'm up on there. You'll find all my YouTube videos as well as a sizable exclusive catalog of self-produced bonus content, video essays and vlogs that you can find only on Nebula. You also got a wide.
I'm not gonna lie, I might have to get into
and
Nebula
commentators up there,
because
like Cantacruel,
I love
Amy
some
Nolte,
long form video
Volksgeist,
content.
12 Tone, and Todd in the Shadows, who, incidentally enough, has a great
I don't know if
episode
you
of
mentioned
the
it or not,
series
but I hope it has like a
Wonderland
good
on
app.
Harvey Danger. I gotta give it up to Todd in the Shadows, man.
everywhere.
His commentary and videos are top notch, and he's been doing it like longer than anybody else. He is one of the OGs of video essays on YouTube and even before YouTube. Like, he's the kind of person that Nebula is known for, people that create cool and exciting pieces of commentary and art. But, you know, beyond this, Nebula is very quickly moving to prestige content in the indie streaming world. Better stories, better production value, taking independent creators to the next level. Of course, the wonder of it all is part of this, but Nebula is also home to fun travel shows like Jetlag You're It, from the creators over at Wendover Productions. I say this every time, but I'm a fan of Jetlag because it reminds me of home, and by home I mean touring in Europe. Anyway, if you're interested in checking out Nebula, you can go to nebula.tv/Adam Neely, or click the link in the description to get 40% off annual plans, which comes to $36 a year or $3 a month. Alternatively, you can sign up for a monthly plan at $6 a month. I genuinely love the community of creators who are over on Nebula. They're such a wealth of inspiration for me. And
I want to tour in Europe.
If you like the stuff that I
Sounds
have
fun.
on this channel, you'll probably
Nebula
like
has a
the
mobile
stuff
app.
that's over
Nice.
on Nebula. So go right now to nebula.tv.
He makes it sound good. He did a good job
and enjoy
selling me
40%
on it.
off of an annual plan at just $36.
I like his videos. I like a lot of the creators that
Very
he
excited
mentioned.
about the future
so.
of Nebula, and very excited to see what everybody else is
I
doing.
have to
because,
invest.
it's a great community for people who want to engage the world in a more meaningful way. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and until next time, y'all. So this is Lau Noah. She is a Catalan composer and songwriter that I think is one of music's best kept secrets. Her music is harmonically dense and lyrically rich, which explains why she has collaborated with the crocked one himself, Jacob Collier, alongside many virtuoso musicians like Shy Maestro and Chris Thiele. Her music is just unlike anything that I've ever heard before. Check it out.
De corazón frío sin compasión, creador de la guerra, adueñado del sol, señor del agua, del río, del mar, a los dioses te fuiste a olvidar. ¿Cómo eres capaz de quererme sin reconocer tu verdad? ¿Cómo confiar? ¿Cómo confiar? Puede que el alma me lave la cara y me deje ver con claridad la belleza del ser humano. Termina en cuanto la fe deja de luchar.
This is beautiful, but man, she's like rapping up there.
Man,
what a voice.
This stuff is crazy. It's colorful and intense. The key changes are surprising and evocative. But what is so mind-boggling about this stuff is that she is self-taught. She does not know any music theory. And this was apparently one of the first compositions she ever wrote. I can barely wrap my head around this. How do you have such deep harmonic language without the technical training? I asked Lau a little bit about her process.
The very much like, let's harmonize every freaking note you're singing with the guitar. So just place my fingers randomly here. And then I went note by note with my voice.
What?
You know?
Harmonize. Wow, that's an incredible natural ability to be able to do that.
That matched the guitar. Lo que se me sienta son un espejo que te del mundo no sé si sirve de tu corazón es ganas de vivo.
Beautiful. What a way to write music.
Solo para ti, solo muérete, solo camente. Se te mueren los ojos por usar a tu
Is that
note by note.
Yeah.
It's not groundbreaking, it's just harder work than other people.
It's not groundbreaking, it's just harder work than other people. What an attitude. I love it.
You play things that are ergonomic, that make sense for the shape of the human hand. And you try to make it look as if and sound as if it was much harder than it is, but it's not that difficult.
Okay, so I guess on the surface, it's not that hard.
It's not that difficult.
You take
Okay.
idiomatic shapes to the
Okay.
guitar, and then you harmonize those shapes with your voice.
I need to take a quick vape break.
There clearly is some
paint
more
for about
stuff
an hour
going
and 20
on
minutes
There
here.
are key changes. There are complex seventh chords. There's things that I would identify as something like a 2-5-1 progression. Do you
Just to give you guys a idea of where we're at progress-wise, we have 3 out of 6 of these basses are like halfway painted, basically. So we're at like 40% done with these bases right now. I've got to paint the rocks on 3 more of these, and then I have to paint the mud on all of them. And then I'm going to hit them all with a wash across the whole thing. Hopefully it'll look good. So far, so good. I think I'm pretty happy with it. Anyways, let's continue.
Pick up that stuff from exposure and osmosis. How do you learn to write with this harmony intuitively?
I was part of the jazz world for a while. I was just watching people.
Would you say that that's where you got a lot of your harmonic language, or?
I think it's a blend between that exposure of many years of more complex harmonic language from the jazz world, but also all the Disney soundtracks I was obsessed with. There is a lot of complexity in that language as well. I think the most genius composers are the ones who bring in that complexity, making it feel and sound so universal. You are too beautiful, my dear, to be true.
I would love to collaborate with her.
For beauty, pulled by a feeling that because I found you,
I would pay her to help me write some soundtrack.
Intuitively, I understand the need for the architecture of the song, and it's the same as like writing a book or cooking a dish, really. Like, you know, when there's too much green on the plate and you need like a change of something. This is in and to be with, which this is very jazz language, I guess. Full, instead of going like
build more tension.
And again, very expected harmony here. By a feeling that because I found you.
Wow.
Is that right?
You talk about that chord?
Yeah. That's just because you can. It's funny. It's there for you to use it.
I love her attitude about
you gotta
music.
Play it. First of all, the chord can hold on itself because it's one of the most beautiful chords ever.
Yeah.
And so, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense in terms of the plot of the song.
Oh, yeah, she's telling a story with the music.
Too beautiful for
Oh, and she really is too. She's giving so much in this interview. So much confidence too. I am blown away by her. That is incredible talent.
Yeah. Part of the reason why I know Lau is because she's based in New York City and has a wonderful community of musicians that have learned her music. I really dig her arrangements with guitarist Yoav Shed, for example.
That would be hard to learn.
And, you know, I've been playing her stuff for about 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And part of what's been exciting working with her is seeing how many traditions she draws from and makes her own. You've been very influenced by Americana and like country music.
I think my appeal for Americana and folk music is what they achieve in people. It's quite surreal because they are grabbing something that has to be so core, so centered in human emotion. With carvings of pretty roses,
A little bluegrass action, a little folksy music. Yeah.
and the bird in the middle with wings so wide to hold me when the day close. It's like, why can Chris Stapleton play this 4-chord song? And I feel like listening to this 1,000 times more than anything else that I've been listening to. That has like millions of chords in it.
Why do you still play millions of chords then?
I think the goal is to try and find a way to play the millions of chords and make it sound like it's 4, you know? To make it sound, again,
cohesive, coherent.
Like a good story, like a good book. A chill over enough so when by the river I can reach the water. A chair that is strong so when time moves along.
Gibson
It's like
paint.
I would say in
Gotta
a
get some more gray on here.
good movie, like The Bridges of Madison County. It's a love story. Now, you have the scene of the first kiss. That first kiss is this song, 4 chords. It's a feeling. It doesn't matter. It's just two people joining body parts that make everybody feel something. Everybody who's got a heart feel something. But if you go there without an amazing story before it, it's just cringe. Amazing. It has to be difficult to get to that point.
Dude, the way she talks about music is so...
That's the thing. Like, you have to get
next level.
Far away enough so that coming back is exciting.
Yeah, you can't miss it if it's
Caribbean, they're trying to rescue
so
Jack
close
Sparrow from
the
the
whole
world of the
time.
dead. Captain Barbosa is the one leading everybody, and he has no idea where they are. And he goes, like, to find places that no one goes to, you have to get lost. I'll pick up some wood and make a little bench to rest by my side for you will
I love this so much. I've talked all the time on this channel about the importance of harmonic choices on narrative, how these technical musical decisions can impact story and drama and emotion. But let's zoom in and soy jack a little bit at her harmonic choices.
Yeah,
how
please.
exactly are we getting lost here?
I actually really think that what I'm doing is finding these very folky patterns of, like, what's this game? This American game of slides and staircases?
Chutes and ladders.
Chutes and ladders.
It's called Chutes and Ladders.
It's chutes and ladders. My skill is to know where to put a ladder to climb up to a different key, to make it sound seamless, and to just really repeat those very folky, stable, grounded patterns, but switching keys in the middle.
The story of getting lost and finding your way back home can be expressed not through just words, but also musical phrases and musical decisions. In the case of the bridge to this tune, Wooden Chair, Lau expresses that through both melody and harmony. For example, this phrase is built by targeting a series of ascending...
Okay, let's be real though. So much of the, like, whimsical, beautiful, capturing quality of this woman's music is the fact that she has a fucking beautiful voice too. That she has manifested into an amazing instrument. She has such incredible dynamics, and yeah, like, her guitar playing and the structure of the chords and everything is great, but she just said it. I mean, she kind of just finds patterns and repeats them, you know, that fit the sound. It's her ability to fucking mix in the vocals while she's doing it. It's another level. Going to an Humphreys McGee show tonight. I'm hype. Have a nice painting sesh. Thanks, Knox. I appreciate it. Have fun, bro. Be safe.
Creating tension in a literal rising action of the story, which is resolved to a falling action, a denouement in the key, a descending scalar pattern.
There's a chair till you give it a heart. Heart is a heart till you break it apart. Because you're like, where are you then? That brings you back to the center. There has to be, like, instability to balance, to instability to stability, and that game is what makes everything interesting.
This journey can also be expressed through harmony, and I want to talk a little bit about that.
This
the bridge
lady's a fucking
starts with
genius.
this chromatic bass line moving upwards. We start on an E flat, harmonized with an E flat major chord, the 4 chord, followed by an E, harmonized with a C add 2 over E, followed by an F, harmonized with an F major chord, the 5 chord, followed by a G flat, or a C minor 7 flat 5 over G flat. Now, my jazz brain hears that and immediately interprets it as some form of a D7 chord. It is a rootless voicing of a D7 flat 9 flat 13, because that sound resolves up a half step in the next measure to a G minor 7. The pattern matching that I've been trained to do hears this as some kind of 5 chord resolving to 1. Now, when I am improvising, or when any jazz musician improvises, we are constantly relating the sounds that we hear to this technical language of 5 going to 1, because our vocabulary is intimately tied to that language. But that language can cloud our perspective.
because it assumes that these musical choices were made with that language in mind.
They were not.
And in this case, they weren't.
The way I find the chords is by testing, trying to figure out the best sounding chord, the closest.
Process of elimination, basically.
Before.
So just look at my hand as I play these 3 chords.
Not moving a whole lot.
Notice how my fingers were barely moving?
Yeah.
Everything just kind of like fit underneath my hand. So in traditional counterpoint, the stuff that I learned in music school, there's something called parsimonious voice leading, which says that when you switch chords, you want every note, every voice to move as little as possible from chord to chord. And what we could say is that when we do this kind of movement on a guitar, when you're moving the fingers as little as possible, you're engaged in parsimonious guitar fingering.
This was the first step. Like, this is the shape of what we're working with. When you play it like this, it sounds good. When you play it like that, it sounds good, you know.
This idea can be used to explain chords which are hard to explain otherwise. For example, the next several chords in the song are C sharp diminished to D minor to D diminished to F sharp minor 6, which is hard to pin down to a key, especially if you're looking at the harmony from the perspective of a piano. However, when you play them on guitar, you see that the chords flow from one to the next very easily. The pinky finger stays on that second string, and the other fingers slide around in an ergonomic fashion. The composition is justified by the kinesthetics.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
It is pretty fucking cool. And it sounds great. It's just pure execution, pure expression, very sort of stream of consciousness, which is beautiful.
These compositions,
like I said, the combination of her natural talent with her voice and
guitar fingering,
the skill of how she
made
uses
not
it.
purely by the sound, but by the athletics of producing the sound. Very much, I think, kind of like metal riffs. Metal riffs feel awesome to play. They sound awesome, and yet if you try and apply the lens of functional melody or functional harmony to metal riffs, often they look nonsensical.
The inertia of your hand going from one place to another, that feels...
That's kind of how it was when I wrote metal with my band.
I think that makes sense.
My big point here, and this is maybe a little dangerous to say as a music theory guy on YouTube, but naming something forces a perspective on it. If you name a sound,
Comes with all kinds of implications.
Chances are that's then your experience of it. It's harder to hear it as anything else. It's harder to be aware of the frequency response of the sound, for example. You're not listening for 500 hertz, you're listening for 5 going to 1. It's harder to be aware of the kinesthetic response of the sound. You're not aware of the finger movements, you're just aware of the 5 going to 1. It's harder to be aware of the Pirates of the Caribbean response to the sound. You're not aware of the story of it all, you're just aware of 5 going to 1. If you're intensely interested in botany and are aware of the scientific names of all the different species of trees, you may, quite literally, miss the forest for the trees.
Yeah, I am definitely afraid of learning the technical language. And the fear is that I will become way less free. And I know it's not the case.
You will too.
And many people have made a very clear point that
I believe her when she says that.
So actually benefited
'cause
so
I
much
can
from
totally
learning
relate.
all this. And that expanded their horizons. In my case, I just don't have enough proof that that's true.
The older I get and the more music I make and the more complicated music I make, the less I am conscious of what things are called. Because as Lau shows, the deeper you go, the more your perspective needs to shift to other things. Other beautiful things that connect myself to the music and the people around me. The perspective of an athlete, for example, who is deeply conscious of every motion of their body in pursuit of something great and meaningful. The perspective of a storyteller who is deeply concerned about the narrative beats of a scene. How drama, intrigue, conflict, and resolution are so deeply felt in musical choices, and what that might communicate about the human experience. Lau and I come from very different worlds, but ultimately I think we're concerned with the same thing, which is music as a direct line to experience. The way we get there is different, but I think we're equally as passionate about the beauty that can be found in sound and story.
Beautiful video. Beautiful music. Such interesting. Oh, God, this is gorgeous.
It's in that spirit that Lau and I have written an EP together. It's
Yes.
The Way Under. It's a collection of bass guitar and classical guitar duets that explore both of our perspectives and how they're not actually all that different.
Exactly.
Yeah, they work really well together,
Instructions
even
for
without
listeners
her
are to
her
do
direct
that Ricky
like knowledge
Martin
of
thing.
music theory.
I don't know exactly what she means by that, but
You know.
I know. Okay, I know exactly what she means by that. It means play some bullshit.
We have a very similar way of perceiving beauty, and that's not a given, you know. And that's a very important one. I think there's a shared language there.
Right. I think that's
that.
a very good way of putting it. I think a lot of my big viewers and fans and longtime listeners
You just want me to do that?
I'd say we have the same sort of shared vision of
Everybody wants you
beauty,
to do that. Embrace your nature.
kind of informed by similar cultural things. You know, exemplified in particular sounds and
Exactly.
instruments and
Stop
combinations of chords and rhythms.
I think it was the first time, someone was actually creating their own world to match mine. For me, it's a way to explore from someone else's unknown into my unknown. And I'm just looking forward to the palette that will happen over time when we write more music together.
Book us for gigs.
Let's go. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Lau.
Yeah, thank you.
You can go check out The Way Under wherever you stream your music, and also go check out Lau's music wherever you stream your music. I gotta say, it's very exciting to start working with her. I have another writing partner alongside Sean Crowder, who appreciates lots of notes. And, you know, as a person who enjoys notes and the combinations that can be made thereof, it's very exciting to start working with somebody else, and I'm excited to see where all of this stuff goes. So yeah, until next time, everybody.
I like lots of notes too. I can relate. At the end of my cue here. Okay. Tune's going. Dr. Sax love, baby. right, last one before we start doing mud. I have to dedicate like half my palette around mud. All right, we're locked in. This is going very well.
If you don't know me by now, you will never, never, never know me.
Okay. Now we gotta mix up some mud. Fang brown, or Abaddon black. Let me get this brush and shampoo. guy some shampoo too. Little Poop Brown here. Little Dookie Brown. Might stick with this big brush. No, I need a little more precision than that. I guess I could do some of the big portions with it. I'll do the details after with a different brush. I'm gonna make it a lot faster. Now this is starting to look like a bass. Okay, so I would breathe some more Rallis to be honest, but I'm in an active barboach encounter for a 3 hour right now. My cajitos are finally done and I got like 15 leftovers. Nice. Fuck yeah, brother. The grind never stops, huh? The Pokemon grind. I just realized I'm gonna have to figure out who goes on what bass because I do not fucking remember. Austin Powers vibes, this song. I'm at an Austin Powers themed bowling party. right. We are getting somewhere here. Ooh, we grooving now. 3 more. Thank you, Neat Hembo. Good to see you. Hope everyone's having a good Thursday. Enjoying your week. Sorry, I missed a few messages here. Dope shit right here. Nice to see some other type of art on this channel. KEIFER, any trips to Florida planned for the near future? Maybe. There's somebody talking about bringing me out there, but nothing official. Got that shiny barboach. Nice, Crash Out. Hell yeah. Alrighty. Just keep slopping this mud on here. More. Then we're hitting with the wash. Hitting with the oil. Good, my wrist is getting a little tired. Wash it off later. You're gonna be a painting fool like me. Can't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
As if in a dream. As if in a dream. As if in a dream.
One has so many spent shells on it. They're just gonna have to be covered in mud because I do not have the precision with this brush, and I don't want to change brushes right now. And it looks kind of cool that way. Looks very battle worn. Happy accidents, you know. Bob Ross style. Got myself like the perfect amount of paint out. Hell yeah.
Everything around me became suddenly unreal. As if in a dream. Everything around me became suddenly unreal. As if in a dream.
still see some of the original blue plastic color in there. That out. Brown all over this boot. It's okay to look like he's got some mud on his boot, but that's like this bad. Okay, I can fix that later though. Alright. Now we just need to hit him with a wash. Clean this brush because that was a lot of brown paint in there. Dark pigment too, so I'll fuck shit up if I don't manage it. Still cleaning this brush, by the way. It had a lot of paint in it. Okay. Let's get a nice brush for this wash. Got this big bastard right here. That's perfect. Start with the big ones here. Dry by now. Damn thing here with it. That is gonna look awesome. Let that dry. Another one of the big ones out here. That really darkened the brown on the mud too. It made it look a lot more actually like muddy. Bass does not want to come off of this thing. Oh, that skull looks so cool with the wash on it. Night and day.
It's equally
Yeah.
We control transmission.
Last one here.
We control transmission.
Then we let them dry. Okay. They're all starting to look like something here. All right. Start putting them all together here. See how they look. Oh, I gotta actually paint the edges of them too, the black rim there. But I didn't forget that. Let's get everything put up, so I'll just clean up my area a little bit here. This is not good. Some of this a second coat. But it also looks kind of good the way it is. Pretty sick. The whole gang out here, figure out where everybody goes. Go into the damn holes. There we go. Okay. Intercessor here. Salt intercessor is so fucking cooked. His sword does not want to stay where it should stay. Somewhat presentable here. Good enough. Oh, my captain. Snapped in here. Sniper. Find a nice brush where I can just edge of that real clean. Got some shitty bristles on it. Use this flat brush. It's, I think it's supposed to be like a dry brush, but it'd actually be perfect for that. Let's do that. We're gonna have to go over all the edges of the basses with another coat, but very satisfying. Seeing it all come together here. Slide off here. Probably just when I pushed it back onto the bass, I think I kind of dislodged the shoulder a little bit, pushing down too hard. In round two. One actually looks really good. Only a few spots that really need it. how I managed to get out the perfect amount of paint every time. Leaving a little bit of black pigment in this brush because this is going to be my black brush. I'm going to use that for the edges every time. That worked really well. Nice and healthy. It took me about 2.5 hours, but I got these based and ready. Doing 6 bases in 2.5 hours is pretty good. It's a pretty good pace, pretty good speed. Out my shampoo, all that nasty pigment out of there. Beautiful. Paper off of here. Not gonna be that much of a mess. I cannot believe how much I fucked this up over here. That is so embarrassing, but whatever. Gang out here. I didn't just break that. Oh, I think I did. Rip. There's the gang. Looking pretty sick nasty. I don't know how I broke this, but alright, it still works. It's just a little wobbly now. Whoa. Do it like this the whole time? Oh my god. You look pretty good. Hell yeah. All right, gang. I think that's going to be all for now. My girl should be done with her hair appointment soon. And I'm going to get dinner. All right, I appreciate y'all for watching. Hope you have a great night. I will see you on